Supreme Court knocks back Donald Trump and the campaign's last hope, really, before the Electoral College confirms Biden the next president on Monday.
That's right. It really is game over for the Trump campaign. This is the second time that the Supreme Court has rebuffed their attempts to get their legal challenges heard. This yesterday was 19 Republican states who were trying to get the Supreme Court to weigh in and if not overturn the results of the election, at least look askance at them. But that hasn't worked. And so even though Rudy Giuliani and the rest of the Trump team are vowing to keep fighting, the fact is that Monday is the big deadline when the Electoral College formally announces and votes on who the president is, and that president will be Joe Biden.
And as we speak, we've seen overnight thousands of pro-Trump supporters gather in Washington, but while their passion remains, their avenues, as you pointed out, Miranda, have really ended in a legal sense, haven't they?
They have. I mean, they're still talking about going to federal courts and so on, but it's just increasingly looking impossible. The fact is, though, that almost half of all Americans, whether they're Republicans or Democrats or independent voters, believe that there was something askance about the election, that something is fishy about it. And there were so many rule changes under the cover of COVID made at the last minute to allow universal mail-in ballots in 10 states and a whole lot of things that never had happened before. So all of that, I guess, will be looked at. And I think that's part of the legacy of these sort of last-ditch attempts by Trump to overturn the election results. The flip side of that is that it has exposed the vulnerability of the American electoral system to, if it's not fraud, then certainly a lot of irregularities.
There were, as you know, Miranda, after the last election, there were certainly those in the Democratic side of politics and further afield that questioned Trump's legitimacy on grounds like foreign interference and so on. Is this basically, the reverse happening now? Is it a similar sort of scenario to that extent?
Yeah, look, that's a very good point. It's really the quid pro quo. I mean, for 4 years, you've had Democrats and a lot of the media complain that Trump was an illegitimate president. You had people like John Brennan, the former CIA head, and his colleague James Clapper in the intelligence industry, who had become paid CNN contributors who constantly have said that Donald Trump is a Russian agent. This has also been said by Democrats in Congress, like Eric Swalwell, who's just been uncovered as someone who was targeted by a Chinese spy, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. It's gone right to the top of the Democratic Party. They spent 4 years trying to delegitimize Donald Trump's win, and so now they are reaping what they sow. And I don't think there's any shame or feeling of remorse among Republicans who are fighting this election result tooth and nail, because they just feel, well, you did this to us for the last 4 years. We're doing this for a few weeks. Leave us alone.
And the story you've been covering in recent weeks at length is the Biden family controversy, son Hunter. What's the latest on that story? Will it continue to cause the president-elect real headaches, or is it a distraction, Miranda?
Look, it's shaping up to be a real impediment for him. On Wednesday, we had Hunter Biden, his wayward, druggy son, announce through actually the Biden-Harris transition team official press release that he was under federal investigation on what he called tax issues. It turns out that there are at least 2 federal investigations into Hunter Biden over money laundering, tax issues, a lot of very dodgy behaviour to do with enriching himself through overseas business dealings, which was part of this influence peddling scheme that the Biden family was running to capitalise on Joe Biden's name. And that was in China, most importantly, because China is America's greatest strategic national security threat, but also places like Kazakhstan, Ukraine, where Hunter Biden was earning as much as $83,000 a month to sit on the board of a corrupt energy company for several years, even though he had no background to give him the credentials to sit on that board. So there's a lot of dodgy dealings that we uncovered at the New York Post in the middle of October, 3 or 4 weeks before the election, and was just buried and ignored and in fact censored by Twitter and Facebook and big tech. So now that the story is out, you're seeing a little bit more willingness of the rest of the media to cover it, because it doesn't matter anymore, because now Joe Biden is going to be president. And so this will be a discomfort for him, and particularly for whoever he assigns as his Attorney General. There's a rumour at the moment that it will be New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, even though Cuomo has said repeatedly that he's not interested in a job in the Biden administration. He probably has his sights set on trying to run for president in 2024. But he certainly is a tough, ruthless player who would be useful to the Bidens in terms of crushing any of these investigations into Hunter Biden. And also, don't forget Joe Biden's brother, James Biden, who's regarded as the sort of mastermind or the leader of this influence peddling scheme. He's also under his own investigation over some hospital business that he was involved in.